السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. أما بعد, good morning everybody and welcome to our day. That says 2, but it should say 3. To our day 3 review session. I hope everybody is doing well. So inshallah, let's go ahead and get started. Um, any questions you guys have, you can put them in the chat, inshallah. I know that there were some typos in the document, in the Surah Munafiqun document, but that should be fixed by now. So if you refresh your documents, you should see those typos fixed. And for some of you are also talking about adding the last 3 families to the Sarf families document. That should have been fixed last week. So if your document is still showing that it's only families like 2 through 4 or 2 through 6, then inshallah refresh that page as well, and it should bring the rest of the documents. But I think that's everything I wanted to address before class. Yeah, I think that's everything. So if there are any questions, inshallah, I'll start taking them now. No, this is not Knack. This is Ooj. On which platform do I take questions? I take questions on all platforms. We are still on intensive 2? No, this is intensive 4. Oh, you mean you're on intensive 2. Okay, that's fine. That's fine then. All right, this document doesn't have the emails on it. Let me add the emails here. There you go. Okay, here are the emails you guys might need. If you have questions about Arabic, then you send that to arabic@bayina.com. If you have questions about tech issues, then you send that to contact@bayina.com. And if you need the study materials, this is the website for the study materials. Review answers. I don't understand the last question on Feral and Doer. Do you mean? Sorry, I'm opening the document for myself. Arif, are you saying you don't understand the concept, or are you saying you don't understand a specific number in that section? If it's just a number, then let me know. If it's the concept, let me know, and inshallah I can clarify. Sayyid, how do you know if kulla is an ism? Remember when we went over page 22 in intensive 1 notes? We talked about special mudafs. Kulla is a special mudaf, and all of the special mudafs are isms. So make sure you know that page well. If you ever come across any of those words, you can automatically know it's an ism. Okay, the difference between iqtaraba and inqalaba. Okay. On one hand, we have iqtaraba. On the other hand, we have inqalaba. And while at first these might look the same, um, the difference between the two actually um, comes in the shape, not in the shape, in the pot, right? So we talked about pots early on in Solf. The difference here is that the what's part of the pot in iqtaraba is the hamza and or the alif and the ta. The alif and the ta are part of the pot. The qaf, the ra, and the ba are the root letters. So if I replace this with the fa letter, ain letter, and lam letter, it would look like ifta'ala, ifta'ala. And for inqalaba, the pot is not the second letter anymore, or it's not the third letter ta anymore. It's the second letter noon. The noon here is part of the pot. So if I put ta, ain, and lam into that one, it becomes in fa'ala. So in iqtaraba, if I'm replacing with any other root, then the ta is always going to stay as the third letter, and then the fa, ain, lam here are gonna be replaced. So if I wanted to put ain, lam, mim here, for example, it would become i'tamala or ain, lam, mim, i'talama, i'talama. If I wanted to put it into infa'ala, it would become in'alama. So that's the difference. I'talama and in'alama. If you guys take a look at the document, let me open it here because a lot of you are having questions about this. Okay, here we are. If you guys remember this document, which all of you should have access to if you have access to the website, it's called Solve Families. It should be available in Intensive 3, Day 1. So for each family, I have the base word allama. I have the meaning of that word, which means to teach, and then I have which three letters of that family are the fa letter, ain letter, and lam letter. So in allama, ain is the fa letter, lam is the ain letter, and mim is the lam letter. If we go to jahada, jim is the fa letter, ha is the ain letter, dal is the lam letter. Likewise, if we go all the way to the end, istaghfara, ghain is the fa letter, ghain is the fa letter, fa is the ain letter, and ra is the lam letter. So if you wanted to put a different root into istaghfara, you would replace the ghain, fa, and ra. So that would become ista'lama for ain, lam, mim, for example, or istaf'ala. Um, I hope that part is clear. If you ever forget which letters are the root letters in any of the families, you can refer back to this document. Princess Castle Ustad went over Ihdina yesterday in class already, um, and it was a bit involved. So if you want a good, proper, like in-depth explanation for ihdina, then I would go over the intensive 4 day 2 class for that part. Zainab, wasn't that your homework? Why are you asking me to do your homework for you? Can we go through Surah Ikhlas? I'll ask Ustad to go over it since we didn't do it yesterday, inshallah. Do all the forms have valid meanings? Not always. If I put Ain Lam Mim, if I'm using the root of Ain Lam Mim, you will not see Ain Lam Mim in all of the forms. Not every root will go in every form. You can, on a technical level, put every root in every form, but every root won't be used in every form. Like for Ain, Lam, and Mim, um, we have the Nasara family, or not exactly Nasara, but we're going to learn the Ain, Lam, Mim family for family 1. We haven't learned it yet. Alima, Ya'lamu, that's one of them. You also see Allama, obviously, and Ta'allama. Um, Ista'lama, you could see that one too. And I think those are the only ones that you would see for Ain, Lam, Mim. But this is something that like you would look this up in the dictionary, right? To see which ones are actually used. But on a technical level, again, you can put it into all of them. So alima ya'lamu, or allama yu'allimu, or alama yu'alimu, or a'lama yu'limu, or ta'allama yata'allamu, ta'alama yata'alamu. The next one would be in'alama yan'alimu, or i'talama ya'talimu, or for the last one, ista'lama yasta'limu. Why ta is not the root letter for iqtaraba? Because it's not. That's just not. Like, for example, it's the same thing as if let me switch back to the doc. It would be the same thing as if you said aslama. Why is hamza not a root letter? It's just not. It's just part of the pot. That's why. Just like that. I'm looking at iqtaraba. Um, let me highlight these. The ones that I'm highlighting. Wait a second. Okay. Hmm. Okay, this is giving me some trouble. It's not highlighting properly. Okay. Just forget the highlighting part then. It's not working properly. But um, just like how the hamza is part of the pot and it's not a root letter in aslama, the hamza, the alif and the ta in iqtaraba are part of the pot and they're not root letters. It's just how it is. Going on to a deeper level, asking why did they make the hamza and the ta part of the pot? That's not something that I can answer. Homework was putting sheen, ra, and fa into all of the families. I did some. Nadira, I don't understand your question. If you can clarify that, that will be great. I think Sophia Ustad said he's going to go through the exam on Thursday, maybe. Can I add in the description the topic? Um, well, for the review sessions, I'm not covering any specific topic. I'm just I'm just going over any questions you guys might have. If you guys want me to do a review session on specific topics, then I guess we could think about that, but I feel like leaving it open to question and answer would be more beneficial. Okay. Yeah, I can point out the corrections, um, since some of you may have already printed out the document. Okay. So in the document on page 5, I believe, I didn't put page numbers. Yeah, on page 5, um, we have these examples of an inside doer and then an outside doer. So nasara, then nasara al-muslimani, right? Uh, in this second section where I'm giving more examples, I accidentally at first I put aslamat aslamat Maryamu. I put that down here as well, so it was repeated. Aslamat Maryamu. So I changed that to tastaghfiru and tastaghfirul muslimatu because that's what it was supposed to be, and that's what the translation says. But I accidentally just wrote the same Arabic. And then there was one other change before that. In the ja'a sarf, yeah, in the table that shows the ja'a sarf, I put hum ja'u. It should have been hum ja'u. So those are the two changes. If you put sheen, ra, and fa into the different families, each of them should sound distinct. So I did it for ayn, lam, mim earlier. Sure, they will sound a little bit similar, but there's still a distinction between each one. You should still be able to tell each one apart, right? For 2, we have the shadda allama. For 3, we have the alif, alama. Then we have the hamza at the beginning, a'lama. Then we have the shadda and the ta, ta'allama. Then the ta and the alif, ta'alama. Then we have the noon, in'alama. Then we have the ta, i'talama. And then we have the ist, right? Ista'lama. So each one, it sounds a little bit similar, but each one should still be distinct. How do you know if the ta is a part of the root letter? Well, once you're starting to learn the families and you come across a word, right? You come across a word, first check, is it a present tense fi'l or is it a past tense fi'l, right? And this is assuming that you're looking at a fi'l. Is it present tense or is it past tense? And you should be able to recognize present tense and past tense based on the different charts that we learned. One of them is showing on the screen now. That's the past tense chart, or similar to the past tense chart that we learned. There's also the present tense chart, yansuru, yansurani, yansuruna, so on. You should be able to recognize if it's present or past. And then you need to take it back to the huwa form. So for nasara, the huwa form is nasara. For yansuru, the huwa form is yansuru, right? Or we can also have aslama and yuslimu, or istaghfara, yastaghfiru, so on. You take it back to the huwa form. From there, you should be able to match it to one of the families that you've learned, unless it's one of the 6 remaining. But other than that, you should be able to match it to one of the families that you've learned by looking at the different defining features of each family. LB, you can't tell the difference between the families without going through all of them. That's not possible. That shortcut doesn't exist. You just need to be able to tell which one it is by comparing all the families and seeing, and ruling out the ones that don't match. And over at sure, right now you're going to be slow at it. It's going to take time, but as you keep doing it, you'll get quicker and quicker. And eventually you'll get to the point where you'll be able to look at a family and tell instantly what it is. But you're still following the same process. It's just you're getting quicker. It's becoming easier for you because you've done it so many times. How do you treat the plural by meaning? They're going to be masculine. Remember, the default is masculine. You need a reason for feminine. Selma, for the homework, you were supposed to take two roots, Ain, Lam, Mim, and also Sheen, Ra, and Fa, and you were supposed to plug them into the 8 big families and do the solve for all of them like that. Um, why isn't it like Hunna Nasarna? Well, it's because it's irregular. And that's what we talked about in the document. If you're reading the document, we noted in the document that this is not like Nasara, right? For now, unless you skip this part right here, for now, all you need to know is that Ja'a is like Nasara. Everything else is something we'll come across later. It's just there to show you an example, but we're not actually going into the details of it. Homework was difficult. Well, it's supposed to be difficult. So it's a good thing it was difficult because you're not going to improve until you go through difficulty. No one ever learns anything while reclining in their bed, you know. You have to put in some work. What are the root letters in ta'allama? It's ayn lam mim. Helen, my suggestion would be just to do a lot of practice on mudaf ilay. Whenever you look for a word or whenever you're looking at a word, you should be able to tell roughly if it's an ism or a fi'l yet. And then if it's an ism and it's also light and it doesn't have alif lam, then there's the possibility that it's a mudaf. If it's light and it does not have alif lam, now you have a possibility of it being mudaf. So then you look at the word after it. Is the word after it jar? If the word after it is jar, then you have an idafa. Sadaf, we answered this question way back when we first introduced it. Ism ishara cannot be mudaf, but it can be mudaf ilayh. Maha, that's pretty much correct, yeah. You're saying it's pretty much like you're saying the same thing that they said to you, Jazakallahu khairan. But instead of just saying the whole thing, you just say what, yeah. So it's commonly translated like to you as well, or the same thing to you. but this it serves the same purpose as we talked about yesterday. Yep, these videos should be Dos Santos. These videos are recorded and they're posted on the website. Ist is part of the pot, yes, Mili. Um, the part that changes is the ghain, the fa, and the ra. Saima, so while what you listed is the normal process for commands, the aslama family is special in that specific sense, where in the command form we have the hamza fatha at the beginning. It's just unique to the aslama family. That's why it's like that. Other than the aslama family, you're gonna follow those rules. Zainab, that's not what we're focusing on right now. Um, this is class time. Okay, why is the first family Kasra family in command? Simab, I don't understand your question. Please clarify. Ustad Jawad, who is the TA? That is Ustad Aoun. So everybody say Assalamu alaikum to Ustad Aoun. The Bayna TV on Facebook, the Bayna TA on Facebook. That's Ustad Aoun. Javerdi, I can't repeat them because they haven't been said the first time yet. So I can only repeat the one that we've gone over, which is Nasara yansuru. Nasran fahuwa nasirun. نصر ينصر نصرا فهو منصور الأمر منه أنصر والنهي عنه لا تنصر والظرف منه منصر منصير and منصرة. That's the one that we've gone over, and we haven't gone over the rest. Okay, why in the command of the first and last family we have the ayn letter with the kasra? It's not only the first and last families, it's with all of the families. Let me write it out for you. So it's not only the first and last families, it's all of the families except for ta'allama and tasa'ala. All of the other families have a kasra in the command. And the reason for this is because the command form, it comes from the present tense. So if the present tense has a kasra, the command will have a kasra. If the present tense has a fatha, the command will have a fatha. So if you remember, allama, the present tense for allama is yu'allimu, right? Yu'allimu. So yu'allimu has a kasra, allim has a kasra. Yujahidu has a kasra, jahid has a kasra. Yuslimu has a kasra. Aslim has a kasra. Um, Yanqalibu has a kasra. Inqalib has a kasra. Yaqtaribu has a kasra. Iqtarib has a kasra. And finally, yastaghfiru has a kasra. And istaghfir has a kasra. So the present tense is where the kasra comes from. If I look at the other ones, yata'allamu does not have a kasra. So if I put this in command form, it would not have a kasra. It would be ta'allam. Same thing for yatasa'alu. This would be tasa'al, not with a kasra because the present tense does not have a kasra. Sadaf, the ism ishara doesn't have an al. Can you clarify what that means or what you're asking? Nasiba, can I explain Maliki in Surah Fatiha? Sure. Um, so if we look at the word Maliki, we can't look at Maliki by itself. We have to look at it with context. Okay? Always look with context when it comes to Nahu. Nahu is about how words interact with each other. So we need to look at the context always. Now, at first glance, you could think that Maliki looks kind of like Jahada, but for Jahada, we have fathas. For Maliki, we have kasras. So you might think, okay, it could be the command form. But in the command form, the last letter has sukoon, and Maliki does not have a sukoon on the end, right? So it can't be this either. So we can't match it with any fi'ls. So let's try to match it with an ism. Okay? We when we talked about isms, we didn't talk about any specific shape, right? The only thing we talked about when it comes to isms is we talked about status, number, gender, and type. So let's look at the status, number, gender, and type. Status wise, this looks like it's jar. Uh, Number wise, we can't tell just by looking at it unless you know the meaning. I'm telling you, it's singular. Um, Gender wise, we don't have any reason for masculine, or we don't have any reason for feminine, so we can say it's masculine. And type wise, it looks common right now. But when we talked about fragments, we said, um, actually, before even that, when we talked about isms, we said that the default for an ism is to be heavy. Maliki looks like it's light here. Malikin would be heavy, right? So if we think that it's an ism and it also looks like it's light and it also doesn't have alif lam, then it could be a mudaf, right? So now we look for a mudaf ilayh. What we need for a mudaf ilayh is we need the word after it to also be an ism and it also needs to be jar. So we can assume starting off that the next word is an ism and we see that it looks like it is jar. So if you're in this situation, in your position, I would assume this is an idafa, which makes both of these words isms. That's a smart assumption to make. It's a very educated guess. So that's how I would explain Maliki. That's how I would look at it at your level. Small alif and big alif, Sarah, they mean the same thing. It's just sometimes it's written with a small alif in the Quran, but you can also write it with a big alif normally. If you're talking about if I'm replicating the Quran, then I would write it with a small alif. But if I'm using the word just by itself, Maliki, then I can write it with a big alif too. Okay. Um, An'amta, an'amta looks like it has a past tense ending, right? Anta nasarta. So that's what this looks like. So I would try to put it back in huwa form. So I take the ta off, and put it back in huwa form with the fatha at the end. An'ama. Now an'ama, let's try to match it up with one of our families. If I had to match an'ama to one of the 8 families that we know, what family would you guys try? What family would you guys think it matches with? Good, good, perfect. Good job, everybody. I'm seeing a lot of aslamas, and that's exactly what I want. Aslama, we can tell what gives it away that an'ama matches with aslama. First of all, is that it sounds the same, even if you just say aslama, an'ama, they sound almost identical. But the thing that we want to pay attention to is the a, then the sukoon, and then the 2 fathas after it. That's how we match. We look for what belongs to the pot, and for aslama, the hamza belongs to the pot, and then all of the vowels match. That's how we can tell. Aslama, an'ama. So this is the same as aslama, conjugated for anta. An'amta, aslamta. So somebody asked about Maliki again. How come this kaf at the end is not an attached pronoun? So here's the thing that we need to clarify, and I actually want to talk about the present tense of verbs as well while I'm talking about this. So I'll just write yuslimu. Actually, I'll use the ta one. Tuslimu. So please pay very, very close attention. If there's nothing else that you guys take away from today's review session, if there's one thing you guys take away from today's review session, let it be this. Okay? Let it be this. Just because something can be something doesn't mean it always is something. So when we talked about attached pronouns, we said that kaf with the kasra at the end of a word can be an attached pronoun. That doesn't mean every single time you see ki at the end of a word, it's going to be the attached pronoun ki. Okay? Likewise, we said that present tense, I should just write them all, shouldn't I? We said that present tense verbs, they can start with a ya and a ta and a hamza and a noon. They can. That doesn't mean that every word that we come across that starts with a ya or a ta or a hamza or a noon is going to be present tense. Okay? That's not what it means, because we just looked at aslama. Aslama is past tense. It starts with a hamza. Um, ta'allama starts with a ta, but it's past tense. It's not present tense. The word yawmi starts with a ya. It's not present tense. This is actually an ism. It's not even fi'l at all. Um, let's see, what else can I think of for noon? The word nadhir starts with a noon. It's not even a fi'l. This is an ism. So just because the present tenses will always start with ya, ta, hamza, and noon, that doesn't mean that every word that starts with ya, ta, hamza, and noon will be a present tense. So let me write that out. Every present tense fi'l will start with ya, ta, hamza, or noon. That much is true. But not every word that you see that starts with ya, ta, hamza, or noon will be present tense. Here you go. Every present tense fi'l will start with ya, ta, hamza, or noon, but not every word that you see that starts with ya, ta, hamza, or noon will be present tense. Does that make sense? Is this clear for everybody? No, no. Then that's not what it's not that if something can be something, it doesn't mean that it can be. If something can be something, just because something can be something doesn't mean it always will be. That's what I said. Is every word in the table for each sarf family used in the Quran? So not every root in every family will be used, but each of the words that Ustad has chosen will show up. So allama will show up, jahada, aslama, ta'allama, tasa'ala. Um, what else? Inqalaba, iqtaraba, istaghfara, nasara, all those, yes, you will see them in Quran. When will Ustad Nu'man join? That's actually a good point. It's already 10:30, so I'm gonna wrap up here. I hope this last point that I'm ending on is clear for everybody. Again, if there's nothing else you take away, that's fine, as long as you do take this away. Yes, Hannah, the command form doesn't start with these because we're not talking about the command form. The command form comes from the present, but the command form is not the present, right? I'm saying specifically for the present tense. It'll always start with one of these. The command form is a different form, even though it comes from the present tense. So remember this. This will help you a lot going forward, because a lot of you are asking, how come we're looking at aslama or ta'allama or any of these other types of words, and they're starting with one of these four letters, but they're not present tense. This is why. So, jazakumullahu khairan. Um, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. I will see you all in the normal class session. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.